Welcome back to supporting positive behavior in continuous learning environments. Part 2. We're going to talk about supporting positive behavior in general and kind of get into a little bit more nitty gritty. This is about when scheduled learning is actually happening in your home. If you're engaging in the learning process and you were trying to start with some instruction or just supporting the instruction that's going on or even supplementing something, we're not going to sort of mince words on what's actually happening. If you're trying to do math and reading, that's what we're going to start talking about. So up until about 6 weeks ago, you were a parent. And, you were not a teacher. That was a different role. And kids listening to you and your interventions probably work differently when you're a parent than when you're a teacher. But you're trying to get kids to learn and not just listen. And getting kids to learn is a bit different. So let's think about the home learning environment for a moment. Research tells us which of these examples are supportive to learning and which ones are not. While many in the non-example set are used in home environments to stop unwanted behavior with great success. Hey, if it's working and you're doing it, keep doing it. If it's not working, I imagine you might keep listening to this webinar. However, with many of our students, these interventions are not going to be effective to engage in learning, and many will in fact damage the relationship with the student and the parent in their new role as educator. We're going to teach and model expected behaviors. Practice, practice, practice. Show them what you want to do. Sit in their seat. Show them what learning looks like in your home. We want to develop consistent rules that are visible and practiced. Poster board, if you have it, right? Or just a piece of paper that you have taped to the ground or tacked on a wall. Relationship development. Yeah, really simple stuff like getting to know them, telling about your experiences in school, what it was like for you. Behavior-specific praise, telling people, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. Catching students engaging in appropriate behaviors and then praising them. Thank you so much for sitting and doing your work. Hey, I noticed that you just sat down and started doing work this morning. That's great. Pre-correction, right? Getting ready to anticipating, hey, I just want to make you aware of what's coming up soon. Want to let you know what we're doing later. Hey, I know you're about to do something. I wanted to help you with that. Correct misbehaviors before escalations or once a student is de-escalated. See, when kids are super escalated, they're out of their brains. They're not listening to us. They're in crisis, and our job is to de-escalate them, get them to talk in normal tones and engage with us. We should not be sort of reprimanding and correcting people during that time. Our job is to get them to de-escalate and then start talking to them. Increasing opportunities to respond and talk and engage in the schedule. Encouraging flexibility to build in frequent opportunities and choice, pen and pencil. 5 problems or 7 problems. What are we working for? Supporting functional communication as a replacement for maladaptive behaviors, breaks, help, etc. What we want to stay away from are things that are public shaming, like clip charts and color charts and public calls out for misbehaviors, comparing them to their peers or other siblings. That might work day to day, and it might really work with younger students and older kids, but when it comes to learning, we know that it's not going to help them engage in learning. It might help them do the dishes. Those are 2 really different things, and we have to think about them really differently. Timeouts or sitting in the corner pushing kids away. I use timeouts myself, just because I have a kid who needs a break. I have another kid I don't do timeouts with at all because it's actually damaging to her. But when I do that timeout, it's more of a time in where I sit with her, isolated from her sister. Loss of privileges, losing access to reinforcer. We should be gaining privileges. Taking them away is not teaching them to learn, but practicing those skills to earn those privileges is the best way. Once you give something and then taking it away is not, again, we're not going to reinforce learning at this time. It's not going to help them to gain the skills. Requiring using a reflection room, or restraint, isolation, bribing, bartering, and negotiating. We're going to transition away, right? You're being very disrespectful. Correct your behavior now and stop interrupting me. As a parent, I have to say I've uttered words similar to this, in moments of frustration. But now that we're engaging in learning, we're gonna really try and flip the script a bit, and we're gonna say you're engaged. You're listening so well and attentively. Thank you for engaging in the lesson. Praise what you want to see. Praise what you want to see. Praise what you want to see. Catch them doing good. Give opportunities for that. All right, setting up the home for learning. Right. The students have left environments where they're potentially using positive behavior interventions. One recommendation for home learning is to create some values. Like the school values. Your school may have some school expectations or values or rules. You can mirror those in the home and say how they connect. Like if the school value is to be respectful, so how do you want to do that in the home? we ask instead of demand. We say please and thank you. We look at adults when they're talking. These are just, there might be some examples of things that you do. If a school rule is be responsible, well, in our home, we clean up our toys when we're finished playing. We do chores. We wash hands if we're using the bathroom. These are all things that we can think about. These are some traditional classroom strategies that work. They're sort of an escalating path of how to really specific. So let's start at the beginning. We see behaviors that we don't like, but they're not a big deal. They're not disrupting other people, and they're just delaying. You don't have to respond to everything we don't like all the time. You can plan to ignore some behaviors that are really just going to cause an argument, and they're not going to be helpful. So we're going to do something called what's called planned ignoring. You know, sometimes there's behavior that I've tried to ignore, but they're doing it and they don't think I know or see me. So that's when I would use something like physical proximity. I would come closer, and just to have my presence known, just to stand a bit closer. That anybody who's spent any length of time with children know that physical proximity, they are aware when you were there, when you were in the room, particularly if you've moved closer. Direct eye contact, we call it the look, sometimes the teacher look. Just to look at them, don't say anything, just look so they know that you're aware and you see the behavior that's going on. Kids often know what they should and shouldn't do, right? And if they know, they might just not remember at the time, but if they get the look, they'll go, oh, right, here's where I am. And they just need to be kind of jostled back into that we're learning right now, that we're engaged in academics. A signal or a nonverbal cue. Sometimes you can have like a pencil that you hold or a flag or something, or you can even just sit in a different part of the table so that they just know that like it's time to engage in our desired behavior. Praise the appropriate behavior of others. When you see, even if there's one kid you're struggling with a certain behavior, you can look at the other kid or look at someone on TV or identify someone in a book and be like, hey, I really like how they did that. That's something I'd like to see. Or even in the moment, if you have two siblings in the same room saying, oh, thank you so much, Claudia, for doing that wonderful thing that you're doing. And I might click in the other one, right? Once we tried a lot of these things, we may get to the point we're going to redirect. We're going to restate the desired behavior that we want as described in our our plan. So, oh, hey, I noticed you're doing that. Could you please try to do this? This is what we'd like. And if redirecting doesn't work, we want to reteach. We're going to demonstrate the behavior and then practice and have them demonstrate. Nope, this is what sitting in your seat and doing work looks like. Remember, I'm sitting here, I'm holding my pencil, and I'm looking. I'm not sitting backwards. I'm not walking around the room. I'm just sitting here and looking. So praise approximations, we're going to be like, hey, I've noticed you're not doing this one thing, but you're doing this one thing really well. So they get that little bit of praise and it comes out. And then sometimes we're going to do specific error correction. We're going to say, this is the behavior. But again, this is a plan. We've gone through all of these things before we get to even saying specifically what we don't want them to do. We've gone through a list of things we've attempted. And these can be very, very quick, seconds, right? It's just attempting it all along the way before, but our instinct is to go right to here. Right to the specific error correction. Stop doing that. I know it's mine. I teach this stuff, and my instincts aren't that good with my own kids, right? I'm their parent. I don't have positive behavior intervention supports all day. I do sometimes. I do most of the time even, but not all the time. And now that I'm in teaching, I have to have it all the time, and that's a really different thing to be in. Regulate, relate, and reason. We can practice regulation strategies, or quiet, or letting them move away, or engage in problem solving. We can provide choice. We can give appropriate choices that lead to the same target outcome. We can set them up for ways to say, this is an option, and one of those choices might not be very good, but in your opinion, but it's still giving them an opportunity to choose what they want to do. Here are your options. Here's what's going on. You can engage in academics, or you cannot, and you don't get the rewards. You don't get the good things we're planning for. You don't earn these things, right? And then potentially you can have a side conversation. Dinner is actually a great time to have these conversations. That family meal we talked about earlier. And then potentially we talk about a restorative circle, which you probably wouldn't be engaged in at home, but it might be happening in some homes, and definitely it's happening in some school systems. All right, to encourage appropriate positive behaviors from students, parents need to recognize the positive actions happening around them. Studies have shown that an exponential increase in positive behaviors, when those behaviors are recognized at least 4 times or 5 times as often as undesired behaviors by following the 5-to-1 ratio, we will not only increase the positive behaviors around the home, but also strengthen our self-worth and resilience and performance. All right, so again, I want to be really, really clear. So for every correction that we're doing, We need to do 5 positives. And the positives can, hey, thank you so much for getting out of bed and doing what you're supposed to do when you wake up. Thank you so much, like every day. And until it's a regular practice, you don't have to. But if it's something that they're still working on, every time they're doing that, we're rewarding it positively. And then thinking when we have to redirect them, we're then supplementing that redirection with 5 more positive things that we see. And this is challenging, thoughtful. Incentive or ticket program. Tickets can be used by caregivers for students whenever they notice a student demonstrating a behavior in an area of continuous learning. Caregivers should not give tickets to students who ask for them or who are behaving just to get the reward. Parents should give tickets in conjunction with very specific verbal feedback about the student's behavior. At the end of the day, the week, the student could cash in the tickets with the parent for acknowledgement or a small prize or time alone with the parent. There's nothing that's quite as good as just you get this dedicated half hour, 2 hours for me to do this activity that we do together. It doesn't have to be something you buy. Students may lose tickets. They may lose token boards, sticker charts. They may lose tickets, sorry. Token boards or sticker charts or marbles in a jar that they can display can be just as effective as something you hand them that they can potentially lose. I got a kid who loses stuff. Hey, we're going to talk about some things we can say to encourage desired behaviors that we want. Because these aren't going to always come naturally because they don't sit with us. But hey, we're in a new job. We got to learn some new skills too. So encouraging desired behaviors, things like get ready hands. Thank you so much for being ready to work. You came back to your seat before the timer, ready to work. Awesome job. I love that you told me you needed a break before you got frustrated. Excellent job staying positive. Thank you for telling me what you need to be successful. It shows you're engaged and know how to get help when you need it. Way to go. You're showing a great example of how to be positive. Thank you for sitting in your learning area. It shows that you're ready to work. Again, this isn't a script. This can work for you. This is just to give you some ideas of ways to give positive praise that's constructive and functional. What about communicating with the school? Well, parents are operating under a unique set of circumstances. Many of us are working from home at the same time our children are attending continuous learning classrooms or doing take-home curriculum. We can communicate directly with the teacher with questions and comments and can help our children participate in class activities by sending notes home to the teacher, or a child completing an extra project or activity was not assigned, notifying the teachers that the student completed chores to help the family, or sending a picture of the child working with a sibling to solve a problem. Keeping that going constantly, that give and take can be really, really important. Just to keep that connection there, because they're going to go back to school. I promise you, they're going to go back to school. At first, it might not look like we want it to, but eventually kids are going to go back to school and we'll have our lives back. Be consistent. Attention is not distinguished by as good or bad by our students. Look at them, engage with them, empathize with them. Try not to ask why, because that often gets answers like "cause" or "I don't know." Right? What happened? What can you do instead? What do you need? How do you feel? How can I help? How can I fix it? Use words to identify feelings. We also don't ask with the word "why" to kids a lot because it can be seen as accusatory, and if they're upset, it can often inflame them. So let's talk about problem-solving strategies and continuous learning and get down to the root of what problem-solving really is. These are for children who, again, they're still really struggling to engage in academics or really struggling with behaviors in the home. When kids don't meet adult expectations, we need a plan. Problem-solving makes explicit that we really only have 3 options for how to respond to problems with kids. In problem-solving, we refer to these plans as Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C. Most often, we adults, we try to impose our will. Problem solving refers to this as Plan A. Plan A is very popular because we have good expectations for our kids, but pursuing those expectations using Plan A also greatly heightens the likelihood that we're going to see challenging behavior in kids who experience challenging behavior. For kids who listen and do this, it works, doesn't it? That's right. No, because I said so. But for kids who don't, this isn't working very well right now, is it? That's because dealing adaptively with Plan A, having someone else impose their will upon you, requires a variety of skills that many of our kids lack. So Plan A does not often only causes challenging behavior, but it doesn't teach the skills that challenging kids lack and need. Worse yet, Plan A interferes with teaching of those skills since it tends to get in the way of developing and helping relationships that are crucial to teaching. Even in whatever an ordinary kid is, kids who have the skills to respond to Plan A adaptively, Plan A is simply a lesson in might makes right when it comes to problem solving. And again, as a parent, I use Plan A sometimes, but there's moments where it doesn't work. So we got to do something else. There's another plan. That's Plan C. Plan C is when adults drop the expectation, at least for now. A common misconception is that Plan C is like giving in. Giving in is when adults start with Plan A and then move to Plan C. Plan C, on the contrary, is being strategic. You can't work on all the problems at once. Plan C is a way of prioritizing that and deciding what you want to address first. But putting some problems or unmet expectations on the back burner while addressing problems that are higher priority, some challenging behaviors are reduced. When adults are still in charge of using Plan C because we're the ones deciding what to address and what to do for now. It's called picking your battles. You know, I use Plan A for safety. Can I run in the street? No, you cannot. Oh, can I run down to the mailbox and check the mail if you're watching? Sure. Do I want to go stand in the doorway and have you watch the mail? No, I don't, but right now I can, and you'd like to do that right now, right? There's Plan A moments as Plan C moments, right? I see behaviors that are annoying to me, but not annoying to anybody else, and I don't need to pick a fight with my kid right now. I pick my battles. There's a lot of moments that aren't Plan A and aren't Plan C. That's called problem solving. So if there's a problem that we can't address might or right, and we can't address by adopting expectation, we have to engage in some sort of problem solving with our kids. And problem solving involves a step. The first step is to drill for information. I used to call it the what's up intervention. What's up? What's going on? It's called the empathy step. The first step to gather information from anyone is to provide empathy. We want to gather information so we can achieve the clearest understanding of our kids' concern and their perspective about the given problem, such as, completion of schoolwork or chores or sibling or interactions or teeth brushing or screen time or diet or curfew or whatever. And issue an empathy statement. Tell me what's going on. What's up? That's our first step. We're going to provide empathy. We're going to achieve the best possible understanding of the kid's concern or perspective and the given problem. We're going to provide assurance. I'm not mad. You're not in trouble. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just trying to understand. Make a neutral observation about a challenge or a problem the kid's having, followed by initial inquiry. Probe who, what, where, when, why. Sometimes it's the problem. Hey, I've noticed you've been getting mad at some of your siblings today. What's going on? Don't move to the next step until you have a clear possible understanding of their concern and their perspective. Sometimes you need to wait. I don't know. Okay, here's what I've seen. You can tell them what you've seen. Just observe it, and you can engage in a conversation. After you've provided empathy and we know what's going on, let's really define the problem. It's our second step. We're going to enter into a consideration of adult concerns, the same unsolved problem, while also leaving the situation open for the idea that both parties can find middle ground. The problem is the two concerns that have yet to be reconciled. Plan A only considers the adult concern. Plan C only considers the kid's concern. The power struggle happens when we have dueling concerns. Let's define the problem together. Discover a solution. Steps: drill, define, discover. Negotiation or mutually agreeable solutions. That's step 3. Have the child and adult, you and your kid, brainstorm solutions to arrive at a plan of action that's both realistic and mutually satisfactory. That's really clear. Realistic and mutually agreeable. In other words, a solution that addresses both concerns. Restate the identified concerns and summarize the problem to be solved. And invite the child in to solve problems collaboratively. Give them a first shot at posing a solution. I wonder if there's a way. Do you have any ideas? Remember that solution is not premeditated, and there's never a bad solution, only one that doesn't work for both parties. Remember, we're realistic and mutually agreeable. It's really, really important. Generally, solutions ask for a little help, give a little, and try and do things a different way. Our 5 goals of Plan B. We're going to pursue unmet expectations to ensure that your concerns about their challenges are addressed. Solve problems, precipitating the challenging episodes in a collaborative, mutually satisfactory, durable fashion. Teach them the skills they are lacking, reduce challenging behavior, create a helping relationship. Again, drill, define, discover. Drill for information, define the problem, discover solutions together. I encourage you to just give it a try, give it a run. You're gonna mess up. I messed up for a while first too. And you can get into the process, and then kids are gonna start engaging in problem solving with you. They're gonna want to seek to problem solve with you. It can be really exciting. And it changed, because I noticed I haven't been able to consequence my kid into doing much academically. That problem solving has worked, and we've worked through some struggles together to do this.